Mason Julian stood alone inside his azure loft, staring down at the city like a man who owned everything except peace. The skyline glowed beneath him, yet his face carried no pride. On the table behind him sat a velvet ring box, unopened, untouched, waiting like a question he no longer knew how to answer. His phone kept lighting up with messages from Evelyn, but Mason did not reach for it. His heart was already fighting a truth his wealth could not silence. The company's anniversary dinner was only 3 days away, and every powerful name tied to Mason's family expected him to arrive with Evelyn on his arm. To the world, she was the perfect match, polished, wealthy, and approved by the board. To Mason, she was pressure wearing a smile. For weeks he had been quietly reviewing private reports about his family's deals, and every page pointed toward a truth that would break more than a business arrangement. So, tonight, we will not waste time with a long setup. We are going straight into the night. One small lie changed Mason Julian's future, Emily Bellamy's name, and the entire fate of Apex Meridian. This story begins with money, pride, family control, and a woman who never planned to enter a billionaire's private battle. Yet one sentence from her lips would place her at the center of it all. Before we go deeper, please take 1 second to support Romance Tales with Mr. Kingsley. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment truth first. If you believe love should never be built on whispers, your support helps this channel grow and brings more emotional stories with lessons about love, dignity, loyalty, and courage. Now, stay with me, because Mason's perfect world is about to face a choice money cannot fix. By the time this story reaches the boardroom, Emily will no longer be the quiet woman people dismissed at the door. She will stand before executives, family rivals, and the man whose name changed her life overnight. One rumor will threaten her dignity. One confession will test Mason's courage. Stay until the end, because the truth that begins in the azure loft will force everyone to choose between image, power, and real love. Emily Bellamy woke before sunrise, not because she loved early mornings, but because life had never given her the comfort of moving slowly. Her small apartment outside Atlanta was quiet, except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the soft ticking of the wall clock above the kitchen sink. She moved carefully so she would not wake Ethan, who was sleeping on the pull-out couch with his school books stacked beside him. Emily was 26, yet some days she felt much older. Bills had a way of aging people. So did responsibility. By 7 in the morning, she would be dressed for her office temp job. By evening, she would return home, change her shoes, and sit by her sewing machine to mend dresses for brides, waitresses, singers, and women who wanted to feel beautiful on days that mattered. She had no rich family behind her, no safety net, no second chance waiting in a bank account. Only work, only faith, only dignity. By 6:30, Ethan stirred on the couch and rubbed his eyes. "You're leaving already?" he asked. Emily smiled as she poured oatmeal into a chipped blue bowl. "Somebody has to keep the lights on." Ethan sat up, his voice still heavy with sleep. "I'm going to help you one day." "You already helped me," she said. "You pass your classes. You stay out of trouble. You keep believing your life will be bigger than this room." He looked around the small apartment and nodded, though Emily saw the sadness he tried to hide. She hated that he understood struggle so young. After breakfast, she pinned her hair, slipped into her navy dress, and checked the envelope waiting beside her bag. Her supervisor had called late the night before with a special delivery request. Private dining room, the Marlowe house, Apex Meridian account. Emily did not know why one envelope mattered so much. She only knew late delivery meant extra pay, and extra pay meant food, rent, and one more week without begging anyone for help. The bus came 12 minutes late, coughing smoke as it pulled toward the curb. Emily stepped inside, paid her fare, and held the metal pole while the city rolled past in grey morning light. Atlanta was awake already. Men in suits hurried across sidewalks. Nurses left night shifts with tired faces. Vendors arranged fruit under plastic covers. Everyone seemed to be chasing something, even when nobody looked free. Emily stared down at the envelope in her lap. Apex Meridian. The name sounded expensive before anyone explained it. Her supervisor had spoken with care when she gave the instruction. "Do not bend it. Do not open it. Do not hand it to anyone except the manager on duty. Emily had nodded, though the tone bothered her. People always trusted her with hard work, but rarely with respect. At the office, her day moved fast. Phones rang. Files stacked up. Her feet ached before noon. Still, she kept going. Because weakness was a luxury life had never handed her. By evening, rain clouds gathered above the city, and Emily still had one final delivery to make. By the time Emily reached the Marlowe house, rain had turned the streets silver. She stepped out of the rideshare 2 blocks away because the fare climbed too high. Her repaired heels clicked against the wet pavement as she hurried beneath the awning, one hand guarding the envelope from the rain. The building looked less like a restaurant and more like a private kingdom. Tall windows glowed gold. Valets opened doors for people who never looked down. Women in silk dresses laughed softly beside men whose watches cost more than Emily's rent. She swallowed the small ache in her throat and walked inside. A hostess looked at her dress, her shoes, then the envelope. "Deliveries go through the back," the woman said. Emily kept her voice calm. "I was asked to give this to the manager on duty." The hostess sighed, as if kindness would cost her money. "Wait there." Emily stood near the wall while guests passed without seeing her. Then a waiter pointed down a private hallway. "End room," he said, "but don't stay long." Emily tightened her grip on the envelope. She had no plan to stay. She only wanted to leave with her dignity intact. Emily followed the hallway to the final door. It stood half open. Before she knocked, a woman's sharp voice cut through the quiet. "You have embarrassed this family long enough, Mason." The announcement was supposed to happen tonight. Emily froze. A man answered, low and controlled, "I never agreed to marry Evelyn." Her fingers tightened around the envelope. She knew she should step back. This was not her business. This was a rich family's problem, and rich family problems had a way of crushing poor people who stood too close. Still, the pain in the man's voice held her there. Another voice spoke, older and colder. "The board expects stability. Apex Meridian cannot survive another public scandal." Then the woman snapped again. "You need a fiancé by tonight, Mason. If it is not me, then who?" Emily's heart beat faster. She shifted, ready to leave. But her heel touched the floor too hard. The room went silent. A grey-haired man turned toward the door. "Who are you?" Every eye landed on Emily, and in that moment, her quiet delivery became the beginning of a lie that would change everything. Emily stood in the doorway with the envelope pressed against her chest. The room looked richer than anything she had ever stepped into. Crystal lights hung above a long private table. White roses filled a glass vase near the window. Silverware gleamed beside untouched plates, as if dinner had been planned for peace, but invited war instead. Mason Julian stood near the window, in a charcoal suit, calm on the outside, tense in the eyes. Evelyn sat near the table in a silver dress, her lips tight with anger. Beside her stood an older woman with diamonds on her wrist and a grey-haired man who looked at Emily as if she had broken a rule by breathing. "I'm sorry," Emily said. "I was told to deliver this." The older woman's eyes moved from Emily's dress to her shoes. "Staff should use the rear entrance." The words struck harder than Emily expected. She had heard worse, but something about the woman's tone made her chest burn. Mason's gaze shifted to Emily. For the first time, his cold expression changed. "She is not staff," he said. The room fell quiet. Emily looked at him, confused. Evelyn lifted her chin. "Then who is she?" Emily knew the right answer. She should have said her name, handed over the envelope, and walked away before the room swallowed her whole. But the older woman's insult still rang in her ears. Staff should use the rear entrance. It was not the word staff that hurt her. Work had never shamed Emily. Honest work kept her alive. Honest work fed Ethan. Honest work had paid every bill she had ever managed to pay. The insult came from the way the woman said it, as if people with less money deserved less respect. Evelyn stood so fast, her chair scraped against the floor. "Your fiancé?" she asked, her voice sharp enough to cut through the room. Emily kept her face calm, though her heart pounded behind her ribs. Mason stepped closer, not touching her, but standing near enough to make the lie look believable. "Yes," he said, "my fiancée." The older woman stared at him. "Mason, this is absurd. You expect us to believe you hid an engagement from your own family?" "I expected privacy," Mason said. The grey-haired man looked at Emily with cold suspicion. "How long have you known him?" Emily opened her mouth, but Mason answered first. "Long enough." Evelyn laughed again, but this time the sound shook. "This is pathetic. You found some random woman in a hallway because you were too proud to admit you need me." Emily's eyes lifted. "I am not random," she said. The room went still. Evelyn looked at her, as if she had forgotten Emily had a voice. Emily held the envelope tighter. "And whatever problem he has with you," she added, "I doubt disrespect will fix it." Mason looked at her. This time, his surprise looked like admiration. The older woman stepped forward with her chin raised. "What is your name, young lady?" Emily felt Mason shift beside her, but she answered for herself. "Emily Bellamy." The woman repeated it slowly, as if testing whether the name belonged in her mouth. "Bellamy," she said. "I have never heard of your family." Emily gave a small, steady smile. "That does not make us less real." Mason looked down for one brief second, almost as if he was hiding a smile. The grey-haired man cleared his throat. "What does your family think of this engagement?" Emily thought of Ethan sleeping on the couch. She thought of unpaid bills, old shoes, and the quiet prayers she whispered when money ran low. Then she thought of her grandmother's voice. "A woman with dignity is never poor in the eyes of heaven." "My family believes love should never be used as a public performance," Emily said. Mason's face changed. Something in his eyes softened. Evelyn stared at Emily with open hatred now. The older woman grabbed her purse. "This conversation is over." Mason's voice turned cold. "Yes," he said. "It is." Evelyn was the last to leave. Before she walked out, she looked Emily over with a cold smile. "You have no idea what you just stepped into." Emily met her eyes. "No," she said, "but I know what I refuse to step under." Evelyn's smile faded. The door closed behind them. Silence filled the room. For a moment, Emily and Mason stood side by side without moving. The whole lie still hung between them, fresh and dangerous. Then Emily turned to him. "I am sorry," she said. "I should not have said that." Mason looked at her with a strange calm. "You saved me from a dinner I did not want. That does not make it right." "No," he said, "but it makes it memorable." Emily tried not to smile. She held out the envelope. "This is what I came for." Mason took it, but his eyes stayed on her. "What made you say it?" he asked. Emily lifted her chin. "Your family forgot I was human." His face grew serious. "And you reminded them?" Emily stepped back toward the door. "No," I reminded myself. Emily reached for the door handle, but Mason spoke before she opened it. "It is raining hard outside." She paused without turning around. "I noticed you came here on foot?" "Partly." "That sounds like a..." "Yes." Emily faced him. "It sounds like none of your business." A faint smile touched his mouth, then disappeared. "Fair." He walked toward the window. Rain struck the glass in fast silver lines. The street below had started to flood near the curb, and cars moved slowly beneath the gold lights of the Marlowe house. Mason looked back at her. "At least let my driver take you home." Emily shook her head. "No. You would rather walk in a storm?" "I would rather not owe a stranger anything." "I think we passed stranger the moment you became my fiancée." Her eyes narrowed. "Fake fiancée," she said. Still a serious position. Despite herself, Emily almost smiled. Then she remembered the room, the lie, the warning in Evelyn's eyes. "This is not funny, Mr. Julian." "No," Mason said gently. "It is not. That is why I want you to get home safely." Emily studied him for a moment. Mason Julian did not look like a man used to hearing no. Men like him had doors opened before they reached them. They had names people whispered with care. They had money standing beside them, even when they stood alone. Still, he had not raised his voice. He had not ordered her. He had asked. That made refusing him harder. Emily looked toward the hallway. "Your family already thinks I am part of your life. If I leave with your driver, they may think worse." Mason's expression tightened. They will think what suits them. That must be easy to say when your name protects you. My name traps me more often than it protects me. The honesty in his voice made her pause. For the first time that night, Emily saw more than the rich suit and calm face. She saw a man surrounded by people who wanted pieces of him. Her grip softened on her handbag. "I will accept the ride," she said, "but only because the rain is serious. Of course. And because my shoes are tired." Mason looked down at them. "I will pretend I did not hear them crying for help." Emily finally smiled. It was small, but he noticed. Mason led Emily through a side hallway instead of the main dining room. She noticed that the guests. He did not turn her into a scene. He kept one step ahead, quiet and controlled, giving her room to walk without feeling rushed. At the rear entrance, a black car waited beneath the awning. The driver opened the door, but Emily stopped. "I can open a door." Mason nodded. "I believe you." He gave the driver her address only after Emily said it herself. That small act mattered more than it should have. Too many people treated help like permission to take over. Mason stayed outside the car. Emily looked at him through the open door. "You are not coming?" "No." She blinked. "You trust me to leave with your driver, but you do not plan to follow?" "I offered safety, not supervision." The answer settled in her chest. Emily stepped into the car. Before the driver closed the door, Mason leaned slightly closer. "Miss Bellamy." "Yes?" "Thank you for reminding yourself." Emily held his gaze for one quiet second. Then the door closed between them. The car moved through the rain with quiet ease. Emily sat in the back seat, hands folded over her handbag, watching rich streets fade into familiar ones. The city changed slowly. Golden doors became closed shops. Polished sidewalks became cracked pavement. Luxury lights became flickering signs above small stores. The driver did not ask questions. Emily appreciated that. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Are you okay?" She typed back, "On my way. Lock the door. Don't wait up." Then she looked out the window again. She should have felt relieved. The delivery was done. The rain was outside. Mason Julian was behind her now, left in his expensive world with his angry family and untouched dinner. But her mind stayed in that room. She remembered the way he had defended her before knowing her name. She remembered how he gave her space to choose. Most of all, she remembered his words. "I offered safety, not supervision." Emily leaned back against the seat. That line should not have mattered. But after a life of people using help as control, it did. When Emily reached home, Ethan was awake on the couch, pretending to read. She gave him a look. "You were supposed to sleep." "I was protecting the house." "With algebra?" He held up his notebook. "A dangerous weapon." Emily laughed softly, and the heaviness in her chest eased for a moment. She changed from her navy dress, checked the locks, and placed her worn heels beside the door. For a while, she sat at the kitchen table in silence. She should have forgotten Mason Julian. He was a stranger, a billionaire, a man with family problems dressed in fine suits. Nothing about his life belonged near hers. Still, when she closed her eyes that night, she saw him standing in the rain-lit doorway, thanking her like her courage had mattered. By morning, Emily forced herself back into routine. She packed Ethan's lunch, tied her hair neatly, and headed to her temp assignment. The address made her stop. Apex Meridian headquarters. Her stomach tightened as she entered the glass lobby. Then the elevator doors opened. Mason Julian walked out surrounded by executives. Emily froze. The stranger from last night was not gone. He was her new CEO. Mason looked at Emily again. His eyes held a quiet question, almost like he knew she stood at the edge of a choice. Evelyn laughed softly. "Are we all waiting for the mystery woman to speak?" Something in Emily snapped into place. She lifted her chin. "I'm his fiancée." The words left her mouth before fear caught them. The room froze. Mason turned his head slowly. For half a second, shock crossed his face. Then he recovered with dangerous calm. "Yes," he said, "this is Emily." Evelyn's smile disappeared. The older woman gripped her purse, and Emily realized she had stepped into a lie bigger than the room itself. Emily could not move. The lobby around her seemed too bright, too clean, too expensive. Glass walls caught the morning sun. Marble floors reflected polished shoes. Security guards stood near the entrance with calm faces, as if nothing strange had happened. But Emily felt the whole world shift. Mason Julian walked from the elevator surrounded by executives, his charcoal suit replaced with a dark navy one. He looked sharper in daylight. Colder, too. The kind of man people stepped aside for before he spoke. Tova Bryn, Emily's supervisor, leaned close. "That is him," she whispered. "The CEO." Emily's throat tightened. The CEO, the man from the Marlowe house, the man whose family had insulted her, the man whose driver had taken her home, the man she had called her fiancé in front of strangers. Mason's eyes found hers across the lobby. For one dangerous second, his steps slowed. The executives around him noticed. Emily gripped the front desk to steady herself. Mason approached with calm precision. "Miss Bellamy," he said. Tova turned sharply toward Emily. "You know him?" Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out fast enough. Tova was still staring at her. Mason's executives were staring too. The lobby staff pretended to work, but every ear had turned toward the front desk. Mason looked calm, yet Emily saw the warning in his eyes. Not fear, not shame, something more careful. "We met yesterday," he said. Briefly. Emily almost laughed. There was nothing brief about pretending to be engaged to a billionaire in a private dining room, while his family watched in horror. Tova's brows lifted. "Yesterday," Emily forced herself to breathe. "I delivered a document." Mason nodded once. "Correct." One executive, a tall man with silver glasses, looked between them with interest. Mason noticed and turned cold again. "Conference room in 10 minutes, he told the group. The executives moved quickly. Mason stayed 1 second longer. His voice lowered. "We need to speak later." Emily kept her face steady. "I am working, Mr. Julian." Something like respect crossed his face. "Yes," he said. "You are..." Tova waited until Mason entered the elevator before she turned fully toward Emily. "You delivered a document to the CEO yesterday?" Emily picked up a folder from the desk, though she had no idea what was inside it. "Yes." "At the Marlowe house?" Emily paused. "How did you know that?" Tova lowered her voice. "Because the whole office is already talking." Emily felt cold move through her. "What are they saying?" Tova looked toward the lobby doors, then back at her. "That someone saw him there with a woman nobody recognized. Some people think he brought a secret date. Some think Evelyn Sloane stormed out because of her." Emily's grip tightened on the folder. She had not expected the lie to escape that room so fast. Tova studied her face. "Oh no," she whispered. Emily looked down. "It was not what people think." "It never is," Tova said, "but people will still enjoy thinking it." Across the lobby, 2 assistants glanced at Emily, then quickly looked away. The whisper had already started, and Emily knew silence would not protect her for long. By noon, the rumor had grown legs. Emily heard her name in places where people thought she could not hear them. Near the copy machine, beside the coffee station, behind the glass wall of a small meeting room. "She is the one. From last night? With Mason Julian?" Emily kept her face calm and her hands busy. She answered calls, filed reports, scheduled meetings, smiled when people approached the desk with fake politeness and curious eyes. She had survived worse than whispers. But this felt different. At least, poverty judged people quietly. Wealth judged loudly, then called it concern. Tova watched her from across the desk. "You okay?" Emily nodded. "I am doing my job." "That was not what I asked." Emily looked at her, and for 1 second, the tiredness slipped through. Before she could answer, a man in a dark suit approached the desk. "I am Orrin Vale," he said. "Mr. Julian's executive assistant." Emily's stomach tightened. "Miss Bellamy, Mr. Julian would like to see you upstairs." The elevator ride felt too long. Emily stood beside Orrin Vale with her hands folded around her bag. He did not stare at her. He did not ask questions. That alone made him different from half the office downstairs. When the doors opened, the top floor greeted her with silence. No ringing phones, no scattered papers, no people rushing in panic. Only glass walls, soft lights, and a view of Atlanta that made the city look smaller than it was. Orin stopped before a large office door. "Mr. Julian is waiting." Emily entered. Mason stood near his desk, his jacket removed, his sleeves neatly rolled. The office looked expensive, but empty. No family pictures, no awards on display, no sign of softness except one framed sketch of an old factory. He turned to her. "I owe you an apology." Emily stayed near the door. "You owe me more than one." Mason nodded. "Yes," he said, "I do." Before Emily could answer, his phone lit up on the desk. A headline flashed across the screen: "Mason Julian secretly engaged." Emily stared at the phone on Mason's desk. Mason Julian secretly engaged? For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. The headline sat beneath a blurry photo from the Marlowe house. Emily recognized the room. She recognized Mason beside her. She recognized herself standing too close, looking less like a delivery worker and more like a woman with a secret. Her stomach dropped. "Tell me this is fake," she said. Mason picked up the phone and looked at the screen. His jaw tightened. "The photo is real." Emily stepped back. "Who took it?" "I do not know yet. That room was private. It was supposed to be—" Emily shook her head, heat rising in her face. "People at your level call things private. Then somehow the whole world sees them." Mason looked at her. "You are right to be angry. I am past angry." His voice lowered. "Emily, I am sorry." She laughed once, but there was no joy in it. "Sorry does not erase my name from a rumor." "No," Mason said. "It does not." His office phone rang. Orin's voice came through. "The board wants an emergency meeting." Emily looked toward the office phone. "The board?" she asked. Mason pressed one hand against the desk, his face calm, but his eyes hard. "They watch everything tied to my name. Even lies? Especially lies." Emily folded her arms. "Then tell them the truth." Mason looked at her for a long second. "I planned to—" "Good. But the truth will not stay simple now." Emily's chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means they will ask why I let the rumor stand last night. They will ask why my family left angry. They will ask who you are, where you work, and what you want from me." Emily's face changed. "I want nothing from you." "I know. Do they?" Mason did not answer fast enough. That silence said too much. Emily stepped closer to his desk. "I am not going to become some poor woman in a rich man's scandal." Mason stood straighter. "I will not let them treat you that way. You already lost control of the story." The words struck him. For the first time, Mason Julian looked less like a CEO and more like a man cornered by his own name. A knock came at the door. Orin entered with a tablet in one hand and a controlled expression on his face. "Sir," he said, "the article has spread across 3 business blogs and 2 gossip pages." Emily closed her eyes. Of course it had. Mason took the tablet, scanned it, then handed it back. "Who leaked it?" "Unknown," Orin said. "But the angle is deliberate." Emily looked up. "What angle?" Orin hesitated. Mason answered instead. "They are calling you my secret fiancée." Emily's face hardened. "I read that part. They are also saying the announcement may calm the fight inside Apex Meridian." Emily stared at him. "What fight?" Mason looked toward the window. "My family wants to force me into a marriage alliance with Evelyn Sloan. Her father controls votes I need. If I refuse her publicly, they may try to push me out." Emily felt the room tilt. "So that is why they looked at me like I had stolen something." Mason turned back to her. "No," he said. "They looked at you that way because you stood where they thought only money belonged." Emily stared at Mason in disbelief. "You are telling me this rumor helps you?" Mason's face tightened. "I am telling you, the board thinks it helps me." "And what do you think?" He did not answer quickly. That bothered her. Emily stepped away from the desk. "No, I have not asked anything. You are about to—" Mason looked down, then back at her. "I need time." Emily gave a bitter smile. "Time for what? For strangers to study my life? For your family to dig through my name?" For people downstairs to decide I slept my way into a headline? His jaw clenched. Do not say that about yourself. I am saying what they will say. I will correct it. You cannot correct whispers after they leave the mouth. Silence stretched between them. Mason walked around the desk, but stopped several feet away, careful not to crowd her. 30 days, he said. No confirmation, no denial. Then I end it publicly and take full blame. Emily looked at him. You want me to stay inside the lie. Mason's voice softened. I want to stop it from destroying you first. Emily looked at Mason as if she was trying to read the part of him money had not covered. Why should I trust you? The question landed between them. Mason did not rush to answer. You should not trust me because I am rich, he said. You should not trust me because I said sorry. You should only trust what I prove. Emily hated how steady that answer felt. Still, she held her ground. I will not take hush money. I am not offering it. I will not let you place me in front of cameras like a decoration. I would never do that. I keep my job because I earn it. Yes. And if this lie touches Ethan, I walk away. Mason's expression changed. Ethan? My cousin. He is 15. He lives with me. He is my family. Mason nodded slowly. Then he stays out of this. Emily studied his face. For the first time since the headline appeared, she believed he meant something. Not everything, but something. She exhaled. 30 days, she said. No fake romance. No public performance. No touching without permission. Mason held out his hand. Agreed. Emily shook it. And the lie became an agreement. Emily left Mason's office with her hand still remembering the handshake. 30 days. The number sounded small in his office. It sounded dangerous in the elevator. By the time she reached the lobby, the whispers had sharpened. People looked away too quickly. Phones tilted down when she passed. Smiles appeared on faces that had ignored her that morning. Tova stood behind the desk, arms folded. Well? She asked. Emily placed her bag beneath the counter. I still have a job. That is not an answer. It is the safest one I have. Tova's face softened. Emily, rich people do not make messes alone. They make them, then hire someone else to clean them. Before we go deeper, take a second to subscribe to Romance Tales with Mr. Kingsley. Like this video if you believe Emily deserves respect, not gossip. Stay with the story, because this 30-day lie is about to test every promise Mason made. Emily looked toward the elevator. Mason had promised to take the blame. But promises made in high offices had a way of changing once they reached the ground. I know, Emily said. Before Tova could speak again, 2 assistants passed behind them. One whispered, that is her. Emily straightened her back. If they wanted to stare, she would not shrink. Emily worked through the afternoon as if nothing had changed. She answered calls, sorted visitor badges, transferred messages, smiled at people who looked at her like a headline had walked into the lobby. Every small task became harder under so many eyes. At 3 o'clock, a woman from accounting came to the desk with a stack of forms. She placed them down without looking at Emily. I suppose you will not be here long, the woman said. Emily looked up. Why? The woman gave a thin smile. People close to the top usually move fast. Emily understood the insult. Tova's head lifted, ready to step in, but Emily spoke first. I move at the pace my work earns. The woman's smile faded. Emily signed the delivery sheet and handed it back. Your forms are complete. The woman walked away without another word. Tova stared at Emily with quiet pride. You handled that well. Emily kept her eyes on the computer screen. No, she said. I handled it tired. Upstairs, behind glass walls, Mason watched from the balcony hallway, and his expression darkened. Mason turned away from the balcony before Emily could notice him. Orin walked beside him, tablet in hand. You saw that? Mason asked, yes. And? Orin kept his voice even. The office believes Miss Bellamy has gained sudden influence. Some are jealous. Some are curious. Some are cruel. Mason stopped. Cruel is not part of anyone's job description. No, sir. Send a reminder to every department. Professional conduct applies to everyone. No names, no threats, Clean wording. Orin nodded. Understood. Mason looked back toward the lobby through the glass. Emily was still working, still composed, still refusing to shrink. That bothered him more than her anger had. Anger would have been easier to answer. Pain hidden behind discipline required more care. His phone buzzed again. This time, the message came from his mother. Dinner tomorrow. Bring her. The board expects proof. Mason's hand tightened around the phone. Orin read his face. Problem? Mason looked down at the lobby one more time. Yes, he said. They want Emily on display. Mason sent for Emily near the end of the workday. This time, she did not look surprised when Orin arrived. She only saved her files, picked up her bag, and followed him to the elevator with her shoulders straight. When she entered Mason's office, she did not sit. You watched the lobby, she said. Mason looked up. Yes. And now you feel guilty. I feel responsible. That is close. He accepted the correction with a small nod. Emily folded her arms. Why am I here? Mason handed her his phone. She read the message from his mother. Dinner tomorrow. Bring her. The board expects proof. Emily's face hardened. No, I know. You agreed to no public performance. I did. Then why show me this? Because I will not decide anything about you without you. That slowed her anger, but it did not soften her fear. Emily placed the phone on his desk. They do not want to meet me, she said. They want to measure me. Mason's voice was quiet. Then we give them nothing to own. Mason expected Emily to walk out. Part of him wanted her to. If she left now, she would be safe from his family, safe from the board, safe from every polished room where people smiled before they struck. But Emily stayed. She looked at the city beyond his windows, then back at him. If I do not go, they will call me fake. Mason's face tightened. Let them. If I go, they will call me desperate. I will stop that. You will try. The truth sat between them. Mason had power, but not enough to control every mouth. Emily took a slow breath. I will attend the dinner. No, Mason said at once. Emily raised a brow. You asked me to choose. I did. But I will not let them use you. They already are. Her voice stayed calm, but her eyes burned with purpose. So I will go, she said. Not as proof, not as decoration, not as your shield. Mason watched her carefully. As what? Emily lifted her chin. As myself. Emily reached home after dark, with the dinner invitation still burning in her mind. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, working through math problems with a pencil tucked behind his ear. He looked up when she entered. You look like your day fought you. Emily dropped her bag on the chair. It did. I fought back. That sounds like you. She smiled, but the smile did not last. Ethan noticed. What happened? Emily opened the fridge, stared at the half-empty shelves, then closed it again. I have to attend a dinner tomorrow. With who? She turned slowly. Mason Julian. Ethan's eyes widened. The CEO? Emily froze. How do you know his name? Ethan held up his phone. Everyone online knows his name right now. Her stomach sank. He turned the screen toward her. The headline was still spreading. This time, her blurred face sat beside his. Ethan's voice dropped. Emily, are you in trouble? Emily looked at the screen, then at the boy she had promised to protect. I do not know yet. Emily took Ethan's phone and read the article. The words were polished, but cruel. Secret fiancée. Mystery woman. Unexpected engagement. Corporate power shift. No one had asked her anything, yet everyone seemed ready to explain her life. Ethan watched her face. Is it true? Emily handed the phone back. No. He looked relieved for half a second, then confused. Then why are they saying it? Because people love stories with rich men, secret women, and money. Ethan frowned. That is stupid. It is dangerous. He sat back, suddenly older than 15. Do you need me to do anything? Emily's heart ached. He should have been thinking about school, friends, and basketball after class. Not headlines. Not Mason Julian. Not grown people turning a mistake into a weapon. She walked to him and touched his shoulder. You stay focused on your life. That is how you help me. Ethan looked unconvinced. Emily forced a steadier voice. I made a mistake. Now, I have to face the room it created. He studied her quietly. Then don't let them make you feel small. Emily blinked. For a moment, he sounded like her grandmother. Emily went quiet after Ethan spoke. Do not let them make you feel small. She carried those words into her bedroom and opened her closet. There were work dresses, church dresses, 2 jackets she had repaired more than once, 1 black skirt with a weak zipper, nothing that belonged in a room full of people who judged fabric before character. Emily sat on the edge of her bed and rubbed her forehead. Then her eyes moved to the garment bag hanging near the wall. Inside was an emerald dress she had bought second-hand months ago, for a client who later changed her mind. The dress was elegant, but the fit was wrong. The waist sat too loose. The hem needed work. One shoulder seam had started to pull. To most people, it was flawed. To Emily, it was possible. She carried it to the kitchen table and brought out her sewing kit. Ethan walked in and smiled. You're fixing armor? Emily threaded the needle. No, she said. I'm reminding them they do not get to choose how I enter the room. Emily worked on the dress late into the night. The apartment grew quiet around her. Ethan fell asleep on the couch with his notebook open on his chest. Rain tapped softly against the window, gentler than the storm from the night she met Mason. She measured, pinned, stitched, pressed each seam with care. Every adjustment felt like a small act of control in a situation that had taken too much from her. By midnight, the dress no longer looked forgotten. It looked chosen. Emily held it up against the kitchen light and studied the clean waistline, the smooth hem, the repaired shoulder. It was not expensive, but it was hers. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message from an unknown number appeared. This is Mason. Orin gave me your number for tomorrow's details. I hope that was okay. Emily stared at the screen. Then another message came in. If the dinner feels like too much, I will cancel it. Emily sat back slowly. For a rich man, Mason Julian kept doing something dangerous. He kept giving her a choice. Emily typed a reply, deleted it, then typed again. Do not cancel. I made the choice. The message showed as delivered. A minute passed. Then Mason answered, I know. I only wanted you to know you still have one. Emily read the words twice. They should not have warmed her chest, but they did. She placed the phone face down and returned to the dress. The final stitch took longer than it should have, because her hands had started to tremble, not from fear, from the weight of tomorrow. By morning, the emerald dress hung from the kitchen doorway, pressed and ready. Ethan stood beneath it with a bowl of cereal in his hand. You made that? Emily nodded. He looked at the dress, then at her. They are not ready for you. Emily smiled, but her eyes burned. For the first time since the headline appeared, she believed she might survive the dinner. Not because Mason would protect her, because she had remembered who she was before they tried to define her. By 6 in the evening, Emily stood in front of the small mirror beside her bedroom door. The emerald dress fit her like it had always belonged to her. Not because it was perfect, because she had made it answer to her hands. She pinned her hair low, added small gold earrings, and slipped into the best heels she owned. They were not new, but they were clean. That mattered. Ethan leaned against the hallway wall, arms folded. You look rich. Emily laughed. I look prepared. That too. A car horn sounded outside. Her smile faded. Ethan walked to the window and looked down. Black car. Emily picked up her small purse. Before she reached the door, Ethan spoke again. Remember what I said. Emily turned. Do not let them make me feel small. He nodded. And do not let that CEO make you forget yourself either. Before Emily steps into the dinner, subscribe to Romance Tales with Mr. Kingsley. Like this video. If you believe dignity matters more than status, stay with us, because this dinner is about to expose who respects Emily and who only sees her as a rumor. Emily's heart softened. I raised you too well. You did. When she stepped outside, Mason Julian stood beside the car instead of waiting inside it. His eyes moved to the dress, then back to her face. You look like yourself, he said. Emily paused. It was the only compliment she needed. Mason opened the car door for Emily, then stepped back. He did not touch her. He did not hurry her. He did not perform for the driver. Emily noticed all of it. When she sat inside, Mason entered from the other side. For a moment, only the soft sound of the engine filled the space between them. "You altered the dress yourself," he said. Emily looked down at the emerald fabric. It needed work. "No," Mason said. "It needed you." She turned toward the window before he saw the effect of those words. "Do not be charming tonight," she said. "I will try to behave. Try harder." A quiet smile touched his mouth. Then his face became serious. "My mother will test you. Evelyn will provoke you. The board members will pretend interest while searching for weakness." Emily looked at him. "And you?" "I will stand with you." She held his gaze. "No, stand beside me, not in front of me." Mason nodded. "Beside you." The car slowed before a private estate glowing with lights. Emily looked out at the tall iron gate. The dinner had begun before she entered. The gate opened slowly. Emily watched the estate appear beyond it, wide and bright, with tall windows, trimmed gardens, and stone steps lined with lanterns. The house looked less like a home, and more like a place built to remind visitors of their rank. Mason noticed her silence. "You still have time to leave." Emily looked at him. "Do you want me to?" "No." "Then stop offering escape like I came here weak." His eyes softened. "That was not what I meant." "I know. But I need you to hear what it sounds like." Mason nodded once. "I hear you." The car stopped. A man in a black uniform opened Emily's door. She stepped out before Mason reached her side. The night air felt cool against her skin. At the top of the steps stood Mason's mother, dressed in cream, diamonds bright at her throat. Evelyn stood beside her in silver, smiling like she had waited all day for this moment. Mason moved beside Emily. His mother looked Emily over. "So," she said, "the mystery woman arrives." Emily looked Mason's mother in the eyes. "My name is Emily Bellamy." The woman's smile did not reach her face. "Of course." Evelyn stepped down one stair, her silver dress catching the light. "That dress is lovely," she said. "Vintage." Emily held her gaze. "Repaired." A small silence followed. Evelyn's smile sharpened. "How honest." Mason's jaw tightened, but Emily spoke before he could. "Yes," she said. "I prefer honest things." The words landed neatly. Mason's mother turned and led them inside. The dining room was long, bright, and full of polished faces. Board members, relatives, and strangers with expensive watches looked up as Emily entered beside Mason. Some smiled, some measured, none welcomed. At the table, a grey-haired board member lifted his glass. "Miss Bellamy, forgive the direct question," he said. "Which school prepared you for rooms like this?" Emily knew what he meant. He was not asking about education. He was asking about class. She placed her napkin on her lap and answered calmly. The kind where people shared books, learned fast, and survived without applause. The board member's smile weakened. Emily did not look away. Mason sat beside her, silent for one careful second. He did not rush to rescue her. He let her answer stand. Then he spoke. "That is exactly why Emily understands value better than most people in this room." Mason's mother placed her fork down. "And what value does she bring to Apex Meridian?" Emily turned to Mason, but he did not answer for her. That choice mattered, so she answered, "I know what it feels like when powerful people make decisions about lives they never bother to understand." The room stilled. "I know what it means to work hard and still get overlooked. If Apex Meridian claims to serve communities, then it needs more than polished reports. It needs people who have lived close to the problems it wants praise for solving." No one spoke. Evelyn looked furious. Mason looked proud. Later, when dinner ended, Emily stepped onto the balcony for air. The estate lights glowed behind her, but she looked toward the dark garden. Mason came out quietly and stopped beside her. "You were extraordinary tonight." Emily folded her arms. "I was honest." That is why it frightened them. For the first time that night, Emily smiled, and Mason saw the woman the room had failed to measure. The balcony air cooled Emily's skin. Inside, laughter rose from the dining room, polite and polished. Out here, the night felt honest. No board members. No loaded questions. No Evelyn watching every breath like it belonged to her. Mason stood beside Emily without speaking. For once, his silence did not feel cold. It felt careful. Emily looked at the garden below. Your mother hates me. Mason's mouth tightened. My mother hates anything she cannot control. That sounds lonely. It was. The answer came too quickly, then settled between them. Emily glanced at him. Was? Mason kept his eyes on the garden. I have spent most of my life thinking distance was peace. And now? He looked at her then. Now I am learning silence is not the same as safety. Emily felt the weight of his words. A breeze moved across the balcony. She rubbed her arms before she could stop herself. Mason noticed. He removed his jacket, then paused. May I? Emily looked at the jacket, then at him. Yes. He placed it gently over her shoulders. And for the first time, the lie felt quiet enough to become dangerous. Emily pulled Mason's jacket closer around her shoulders. It smelled faintly of rain, cedar, and something clean she refused to think about too long. You should go back inside, she said, so they can ask me whether you passed their test. Emily's lips curved. Did the first? Mason turned toward her fully. They failed yours. That answer caught her off guard. She looked through the balcony doors at the bright dining room. Evelyn laughed beside one of the board members, but her eyes kept cutting toward the balcony. She is still watching, Emily said. She has been watching my life since our families decided ambition looked better dressed as marriage. Emily studied him. You never loved her. No. Did she love you? Mason was quiet for a moment. I think she loved what my name would give her. Emily understood that kind of hunger from a distance. She had seen people chase status until they lost softness. Mason looked at her. You were right earlier. About what? They wanted to measure you. Emily lifted her chin. And? His voice softened. They did not have the right tools. Emily looked away before Mason's words settled too deep. Compliments from him were dangerous because they did not sound polished. They sounded observed. I should return your jacket, she said. Keep it until we leave. That sounds like something people will read into. People already read lies into silence. At least this one keeps you warm. Emily shook her head, but she smiled. Behind them, the balcony door opened. Evelyn stepped out. Her silver dress shimmered beneath the soft lights, and her smile looked calm enough to hide a blade. There you are, she said. Everyone is asking where the happy couple went. Emily did not move away from Mason. Mason's voice turned flat. We needed air. Evelyn looked at the jacket around Emily's shoulders. How sweet. Emily met her eyes. It is cold. For some people, yes. The insult slid into the air. Mason took one step forward, but Emily spoke first. Evelyn, if you came outside to frighten me, you should know something. Evelyn lifted a brow. Emily's voice stayed soft. I have survived worse rooms than this balcony. Evelyn's smile thinned. You are brave, she said. Emily tilted her head. You say that like it is a mistake. In this family, it often is. Mason's voice cut in. Enough. Evelyn looked at him with a wounded expression that did not reach her eyes. You defend her quickly. I defend people who deserve respect. And what does she deserve, Mason? A seat at your table, a place in your company, your name? Emily felt the jacket heavy on her shoulders. Mason's face hardened, but Emily touched his arm lightly, not to comfort him, to stop him. Then she stepped forward. I deserve to be spoken to like a person, Emily said. If that feels too expensive for this family, then maybe I am not the one who lacks value. Evelyn's eyes flashed. For the first time, she had no quick reply. The balcony door opened again, and Mason's mother appeared. Enough drama, she said coldly. The guests are leaving. Her gaze moved to Emily. But this is not over. Mason's mother turned and walked back inside. Evelyn followed, but not before giving Emily one last cold look. The balcony fell quiet again. Emily removed Mason's jacket and held it out. Thank you. Mason did not take it at first. I am sorry. For them? For bringing you near them. Emily looked through the glass doors at the room beyond. Expensive chairs, empty plates, smiling guests who had left with new gossip to carry home. "You did not create their pride," she said. "No, but I gave them access to you." Emily stepped closer and placed the jacket in his hands. "Then remember this. I am not here because they accepted me. I am here because I accepted the cost before I walked in." Mason's eyes held hers. The air between them changed. Not loud, not rushed, not fake, only real enough to scare them both. A staff member appeared by the door. "Mr. Julian, the car is ready." Emily turned toward the exit. Mason followed beside her, and neither of them spoke about how much harder pretending had become. The ride back from the estate was quiet. Emily sat by the window with her hands folded in her lap, watching the night move past in streaks of gold and black. Mason sat beside her, close enough for silence to feel full, far enough for respect to remain untouched. Neither of them mentioned Evelyn. Neither mentioned his mother. Neither mentioned the moment on the balcony when pretending had started to feel too honest. At a red light, Mason turned slightly toward her. "You should not have had to defend yourself tonight." Emily kept her eyes on the window. "I have been defending myself my whole life. I hate that." She looked at him then. "Do not hate it. Learn from it." Mason accepted the words without pride. The car turned onto her street. Her small apartment building came into view, simple and tired beneath the streetlights. Mason looked at it without judgment. That mattered more than Emily wanted it to. When the car stopped, she reached for the door. Mason spoke softly. "Emily." She paused. "Thank you for trusting me enough to walk in." Emily looked at him. "I trusted myself first." Emily stepped out of the car before Mason could open the door, not because she wanted to be rude, because she needed one part of the night to belong to her. Mason understood. He stayed seated until she turned back. "Good night, Mr. Julian." His mouth curved slightly. "Back to Mr. Julian? For safety, yours or mine?" Emily paused. For the first time that night, she did not have a quick answer. Mason's smile faded into something gentler. "Good night, Miss Bellamy." Emily walked toward the building without looking back, but she felt his eyes follow her until she reached the entrance. Inside the apartment, Ethan was asleep on the couch with the television glowing blue across the room. A half-finished homework page lay on his chest. Emily covered him with a blanket. Then she stood in the small kitchen, still wearing the emerald dress, still feeling the weight of Mason's jacket around her shoulders even though she had returned it. She touched the repaired seam at her waist. The dinner had not broken her, but something had shifted, and she feared it had shifted inside her heart. The next morning, Emily arrived at Apex Meridian before most of the staff. She wanted quiet. The lobby lights were still soft. The security guard nodded politely. No whispers floated near the front desk yet. No eyes followed her across the marble floor. For a few minutes, she felt like herself again. Then she saw the envelope waiting at her station. Her name was written neatly across the front. Miss Bellamy. She opened it and found a printed memo inside. Professional conduct reminder. Respect in all departments. No employee should be discussed, targeted, or treated differently based on rumors, rank, or outside media attention. Emily read it twice. Mason had kept his promise. He had not used her name. He had not turned her into a public victim. He had addressed the behavior without making her smaller. Tova arrived with coffee in one hand and suspicion in both eyes. "What is that?" Emily slid the memo toward her. Tova read it, then looked toward the elevators. "Well," she said quietly, "maybe the man has a spine." Emily folded the paper carefully. "Maybe." But her heart already knew the word was not enough. By noon, the office had changed. Not completely. People still looked. Some still whispered, but the sharpness had dulled. The memo had placed a line on the floor, and even curious people understood Mason Julian knew how to draw lines. Emily worked through her tasks without lifting her head too often. Then Orin arrived at the desk with a blue folder. "Miss Bellamy, Mr. Julian asked me to give you this." Emily eyed the folder. "Is this another crisis?" Orin almost smiled. "Not this time." She opened it. Inside was a community education proposal from Apex Meridian's outreach division. Notes filled the margins, but one section was circled: youth training access, low-income school support. After-school skills programs. Emily looked up. Why am I seeing this? Orrin answered carefully. Mr. Julian said you might notice what the report missed. Emily's throat tightened. Not a headline, not a dinner, not a fake engagement. Work, real work. Tova leaned over the desk and read the title. Then she looked at Emily. Now that, she said, is different. Emily spent her lunch break reading the report. By the second page, she saw the problem. By the fifth, she was annoyed. By the 10th, she had taken out a pen and started writing in the margins. The proposal sounded beautiful, but it was built from a distance. It promised programs for students without asking how students would reach them. It mentioned after-school training without mentioning bus fare, late meals, working parents, or teenagers who cared for younger siblings. Emily knew those gaps. She had lived beside them. When Orrin returned for the folder, he paused at the notes. You reviewed all of it? Emily looked up. He asked what the report missed. Orrin nodded with quiet respect and took it upstairs. An hour later, Mason called from his office. Emily answered from the front desk. Yes, Mr. Julian. His voice came through low and steady. You were right. Emily's hand tightened around the phone. About what? The proposal looked generous. Your notes made it useful. For a moment, Emily forgot the lobby, the rumors, and the lie. Mason had not seen a mystery woman. He had seen her mind. Emily held the phone to her ear longer than necessary. You were right. The words replayed in her mind after Mason ended the call. They were simple words, but they carried weight because men like him did not often admit when someone else saw what they missed. Tova watched her from the side of the desk. What did he say? Emily placed the phone down. He said my notes helped. Tova smiled. Then remember that the next time anyone calls you lucky. Emily looked at the blue folder, now gone from her desk. Lucky, people used that word when they did not want to respect preparation. By 3 o'clock, Orrin returned. Miss Bellamy, Mr. Julian would like you upstairs. Emily stood slowly. About the proposal? Yes. Tova gave her a look. Go make them uncomfortable. Emily almost smiled. When she entered the conference room upstairs, Mason was not alone. 5 executives sat around the table with the blue folder open in front of them. Mason looked at her. Miss Bellamy, he said, please explain what the report missed. Emily stood at the end of the conference table. For a moment, every old fear tried to rise. These people wore expensive suits. They spoke in polished sentences. They sat in chairs that cost more than her monthly groceries. One wrong word, and they would decide she had no place there. Then she saw Mason. He did not nod for her to perform. He did not smile like a man showing off a secret. He simply waited. So Emily opened the folder. The proposal assumes students have time, transport, and support at home, she said. Many do not. One executive leaned back. We included after-school hours. Emily looked at him. After school is also when some teenagers work, watch siblings, or find a way home without money for transport. The room grew still. She turned a page. You also offered digital training without addressing internet access. A laptop means little if the student has no stable connection. Another executive stopped taking notes. Mason watched her with quiet focus. Emily continued, voice steady now. If Apex Meridian wants praise, the report is fine. If it wants impact, it needs to start closer to real life. The room stayed quiet after Emily finished. Then the executive with silver glasses tapped his pen on the folder. Miss Bellamy, your points are personal, he said. Useful, perhaps, but personal. Emily felt the old dismissal under his words. Personal meant emotional. Emotional meant small. Small meant easy to ignore. She stood straighter. Every policy becomes personal when it reaches someone's life. The pen stopped tapping. Mason leaned back in his chair, watching the room instead of rescuing her. Emily continued, if this company sends money into communities without understanding the barriers, it will buy headlines, not change. One woman at the table looked down at the report again. She is right, the woman said quietly. We did not include transport support. Another executive nodded, or meal support. The room shifted, not fully, but enough. Mason finally spoke. Revise the proposal using Miss Bellamy's notes as the foundation. Silver Glasses frowned. And her role? Mason looked at Emily first, then back at him. Earned contributor. Emily's throat tightened. For once, the room did not define her by the rumor. It defined her by her work. When the meeting ended, the executives left in small groups. Some avoided Emily's eyes. Some gave her polite nods. The woman who had agreed with her stopped by the door. "Your notes were sharp," she said. "We needed that." Emily nodded. "Thank you." The woman left, and the room quieted. Only Mason remained. Emily gathered the folder, careful to keep her hands steady. "You did not warn me there would be 5 executives in here." Mason stood. "If I had, would you have come?" Emily looked at him. "No. That is why I did not." Her expression cooled. Mason noticed at once. "That was wrong," he said. "I should have told you." Emily held the folder against her chest. "Yes, you should have." He did not defend himself. That softened the edge of her anger, but not the lesson. "I do not need you to make rooms easier for me," she said. "I need you to make them honest." Mason nodded. "Understood." Emily turned toward the door. Before she left, he spoke again. "Your work changed that room." She paused. This time, she let herself believe him. Emily returned to the lobby with the blue folder in her arms. Tova looked up at once. "Well?" Emily placed the folder on the desk. "I survived." "That is not enough." Emily sat down slowly. "They are revising the proposal with my notes." Tova's face brightened. "Emily, and Mason called me an earned contributor." Tova smiled wider. "Say that again." Emily shook her head, but a small smile escaped. "Do not make it a song. It deserves music." For the first time all day, Emily laughed. Across the lobby, 2 employees looked over. This time, Emily did not care. Let them look, let them whisper. Let them wonder how the woman in the headline had walked into a room of executives and changed the report on the table. By evening, Mason sent the revised draft to her inbox with one line. "Your insight made this stronger." Emily stared at the message, longer than she should have. Then she closed the laptop. The lie had brought her into Mason's world, but her work had kept her standing there. The next morning, Emily found a paper cup of coffee waiting at her desk. Tova stood beside it, with a look that said she had already decided to speak. Emily sighed. "Whatever it is, say it." Tova leaned against the counter. "Do not fall for him." Emily froze. "I am not falling for anyone." That answer came too fast. Emily picked up the coffee. "Mason respects my work. That is all." Tova gave her a careful look. "Rich men know how to make respect feel personal when it benefits them." Emily's hand tightened around the cup. "He has not asked me for anything outside the agreement. Not yet." The words stayed in the air. Emily wanted to argue, but Tova's concern came from love, not gossip. That made it harder to dismiss. Tova lowered her voice. "I am not saying he is cruel. I am saying power changes the shape of kindness. Make sure you know what you are standing near." Emily looked toward the elevators. For the first time, she wondered if Mason's quiet respect had become dangerous because of him, or because of her. Emily tried to bury Tova's warning under work. She answered calls, checked visitor logs, sent files upstairs, reviewed 2 more pages from the outreach proposal. But Tova's words stayed with her. Power changes the shape of kindness. By lunch, Emily's phone buzzed. "Ethan." She stepped into a quiet corner and answered. "Everything okay?" "Mostly," he said. "I need help." "With what?" "My business ethics project. We have to explain what makes a good leader." I thought I knew, but now my answer sounds boring. Emily smiled, despite herself. "What did you write?" "Good leaders make money and give people jobs." That is not wrong. It is also not deep. Emily leaned against the wall. She thought of Mason in the conference room, letting her speak. She thought of the conduct memo. She thought of Tova's warning and hated how both truths could sit beside each other. Ethan spoke again. "You work around business people now. What would your CEO say?" Emily closed her eyes. That was the problem. She already knew she wanted to ask him, Emily stood in the quiet corner for a moment after ending Ethan's call. She told herself not to do it. Then she walked to the front desk, opened her email, and typed a short message to Mason. "My cousin has a school project on business ethics. He asked, what makes a good leader? If you have one sentence, I will pass it along." She read it 3 times. Too personal, she almost deleted it. Then she remembered Ethan's voice and pressed send. Mason replied 12 minutes later, "Is a voice note acceptable?" Emily stared at the screen. A voice note felt warmer than a sentence. Closer, riskier. She typed back, "Yes, keep it simple. He is 15. The reply came fast. Understood. At the end of the workday, Emily's phone buzzed with an audio message. She did not play it at the desk. She waited until she got home, where Ethan sat with his notebook open and frustration written across his face. Emily placed the phone on the table. "Mason sent you an answer." Ethan sat up. "The CEO answered me?" Before we hear Mason's answer, subscribe to Romance Tales with Mr. Kingsley. Like this video. If you believe real leadership starts with character, not money, stay with the story, because one simple voice note is about to make Emily question her own heart. Emily tapped play. Mason's voice filled the small kitchen, low and steady. "Hi, Ethan. Your cousin told me you are working on a business ethics project. My answer is simple. A good leader makes choices that protect people, even when those choices bring no praise." Ethan leaned closer. Mason continued, "Money matters in business, but it should never become the measure of a person. Jobs matter too, but a leader should ask whether those jobs create dignity, safety, and growth." Emily stood very still. "If you want a strong answer, write this. Leadership is not power over people. Leadership is responsibility for people. The best leaders do the right thing before anyone claps for it." The message ended. For a moment, the kitchen stayed quiet. Ethan stared at the phone. Then he grabbed his pencil and started writing fast. "That is good," he said. "That is really good." Emily nodded, though her throat had tightened. Tova's warning echoed again. Rich men know how to make respect feel personal. But this had not felt like performance. It had felt like character, and that frightened Emily more. Ethan played the voice note 3 more times. Each time, he wrote something new. Emily watched him from the stove, pretending to heat soup while her thoughts drifted somewhere she did not want them to go. "That man does not sound like a villain," Ethan said. Emily looked over. "Who called him a villain?" "Your face." She turned back to the pot. "My face needs to mind its business." Ethan grinned, then grew serious. "Do you like him?" The spoon stopped in Emily's hand. "No." Ethan lifted a brow. "I respect him," she corrected. "That is not what I asked." Emily sighed and turned off the stove. "He is complicated." "That is adult talk for, yes." Emily gave him a warning look, but he only smiled and returned to his project. Later that night, after Ethan slept, Emily sat alone at the kitchen table. Mason's voice note remained on her phone. She did not play it again. She did not need to. The danger was not that Mason Julian had fooled her. The danger was that he had not. Emily's journey reminds us that dignity is never given by wealth, status, or approval. It already lives inside a person before the world notices. She entered Mason Julian's world through one reckless sentence in a room filled with judgment. But that lie did not create her worth. It only exposed how many people had failed to see it. Every room tried to measure Emily. Mason's family measured her by money. Evelyn measured her by class. The office measured her by rumors. The board measured her by where she came from. Yet Emily kept answering with truth. She did not need a famous name to speak with wisdom. She did not need expensive clothes to carry grace. She did not need Mason's protection to prove she belonged. She needed courage, self-respect, and the strength to remember who she was when others tried to rewrite her. Mason's lesson was different. He had power, but power had not made him free. He had money, but money had not given him peace. He had a name people feared, but that name had also trapped him. Through Emily, he learned that respect is not control, love is not performance, and silence is not safety. So take this lesson with you. Never shrink yourself to fit into a room built by pride. Never let someone else's status make your voice feel small. Never trade your dignity for comfort, attention, or access. Real love does not erase who you are. It makes room for your truth. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Romance Tales with Mr. Kingsley, like this video, and share your thoughts below. Emily walked into Mason's world as a rumor. She stood there as herself, and that victory was hers. No fortune, family name, or headline stole her voice from her again.